Morris is the top dog in our social circle. While his buddies were busy with other women, he stuck by me, loving me for 3 years. But then in the 3rd year, he gave in to temptation and got himself a little side chick. He kept everyone quiet and had them help plan a grand proposal to me, all set for my birthday in 7 days. But I already had my birthday gift picked out, a plane ticket to leave him in 7 days. Morris organized a get-together with friends to discuss how to propose to me. His side chick, Ella, showed up uninvited, and he scolded her with a frown. "Why are you here? Didn't I give you $2 million for a breakup fee?" Ella, true to her name, looked soft and pure like a white jasmine, with tears in her eyes, half kneeling in front of Morris. "It's not about the money. I can't let go of you," she said softly. "I know you're going to marry Vivian. Don't worry, I won't disturb her or try to have anything serious with you. I just want to stay in the house you've arranged, see you occasionally, have a meal together, and I'd be satisfied." Morris looked down at her, his handsome face cold. "Vivian loves me very much, and I don't want to mess things up with you or do anything that would hurt her." Paul, across from Morris, snorted. "We'll keep your secret. Vivian won't find out about you and Ella." The other rich guys teased, saying everyone in our circle is like this except Paul. Who doesn't have a woman on the side? Ella's so cute and devoted, keep her around. Even Vivian has her off days each month. We're young and can't deprive ourselves. A hint of hesitation crossed Morris's face. Ella seized the moment, shedding tears and gazing up at him appealingly. "I truly love you. You're my first. Please." Somehow, Morris was touched by something she said. He sighed, helped Ella up, and soothed her in his arms. "Stop crying. Okay, I promise." Ella smiled through her tears and leaned in for a kiss, which Morris returned after only a second's pause. Cheers rang out in the room. Hidden in the shadows outside the room, I didn't even think about storming in. I'd shed all my tears when I first found out Morris was cheating a month ago. I didn't break up right away because I had a contract with Joan. 3 years ago, after Morris's ex cheated on him, he was so heartbroken he nearly ended it all. Joan, desperate, arranged for someone to find a girl who could rekindle his will to live. Whoever could spark love would receive a $5 million annual fee. I, already smitten with Morris, used my looks and romance skills to win him over in 2 weeks. This year marks the 3rd and final year of our contract. I won't want Dirty Morris anymore. But for the $5 million, I had to endure the last 7 days. I tossed the hangover remedy I'd brought and headed for the hotel elevator. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a video of Morris and Ella kissing. Accompanied by the text, "Morris betrayed you again. Why haven't you dumped him yet?" Under a blank account, this person had been sending me evidence of Morris's infidelity for half a month. I didn't know who it was back then and never replied. But now, from the camera angle, I saw it was Paul, Morris's so-called buddy. To his face, egging him on to cheat. But stabbing him in the back and urging me to break it off. Quite interesting. How did these two become enemies? As for Ella's bold claim, "Soon I'll have his baby, we'll be a happy family, don't you want to be a third wheel?" I still didn't reply. Just shakily saved every piece of evidence sent by Paul and Ella. Joan's $5 million wasn't gonna come easy. I had to ensure I wasn't at fault. In the following days, Morris didn't come home, only video calling me daily. I gradually calmed down. I quit my job, visited fun spots, and enjoyed all the good food in the city. I stayed here for Morris. Once I left, I wouldn't return. Before I knew it, it was the day before my birthday, my departure day too. After breakfast, I took out the trash before heading out with a suitcase, leaving Morris's villa to find Joan. She was quite unhappy about me not renewing. I'd performed really well in her eyes. I smiled sweetly. "Aunt Joan, I'd love to give Morris a home, but he's generous with every woman." As I opened the door, I noted it was actually a community. I didn't want to loiter around communities, and I wished her congrats on becoming a grandma soon. I handed over Ella's pregnancy test results. Joan's eyes lit up, imagining a chubby little grandson waving at her. Grinning, she wrote me the $5 million check. I happily took it, and grabbed a taxi to a hotel near the airport. That night, lying in bed playing games, Morris called. Vivian, I can't come home tonight. Dress to the nines tomorrow. I've got a birthday surprise for you at Cloud Restaurant. The driver will pick you up from home at 2 p.m. I playfully replied, Morris chuckled indulgently, you don't sound so happy. Don't be mad. Tomorrow you'll have a blast. Knowing I'd leave him the next day, I paused my game, genuinely smiling, not mad. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Hanging up, I exhaled in relief, thankful he wasn't coming home tonight. Otherwise, he'd probably sense something was off. With his power and ways, if he didn't let me go, I honestly couldn't leave. The next day, just as I was ready to board, Morris called, sounding anxious. Vivian, where are you? The driver says you're not home. Calmly, I told him, Morris, let's break up. There were a few seconds of stunned silence, then he panicked. Are you joking? No joke, I'm seriously breaking up with you. I disagree, I love you, and I was all set to propose to you today. I cut him off. Maybe you do love me, but that doesn't stop you from loving someone else. I wish you and Ella the best. Morris's voice shook. You know about it? Yeah, that's that, goodbye. I hung up right away and powered down my phone. I wasn't expecting, once on the plane and settled in my seat, to see an unexpected person next to me. There was Paul, looking sharp and sitting by the window. His classic British suit highlighted his well-defined features. The sunlight coming through the window seemed to favor him, making him stand out in the crowd. He looked up, his dark eyes fixing on mine, and said with a slightly surprised tone, What a coincidence to see you here. I looked at Paul, unsure whether to stay or leave. Both Paul and Morris were big deals in their circles. In terms of looks and background, Paul was way above Morris. But Paul was famously cold and aloof, not interested in women. Morris, on the other hand, was known for his deep affection for women. Even though Paul matched my aesthetic better, I still chose Morris. Thought a lover boy was more charming. But who knew, lover boy turned out to be a dirty cheat. And Paul. He seemed to have beef with Morris. He wouldn't spill my whereabouts to Morris, would he? After some thought, I sat down and smiled at Paul, saying, Yeah, what a coincidence. I wasn't familiar with Paul. He's always been distant and unapproachable. So I didn't plan on chatting him up. I pulled out an eye mask, getting ready to catch some Z's. But then Paul turned to me. Morris said today's your birthday, and he was planning to propose. Why aren't you at the proposal, but on a plane instead? I paused, holding the eye mask, quietly looking at him. Didn't feel like saying yes to him. Really? Did you two have a fight? Wanna tell me about it? Paul's eyes were full of curiosity. If I didn't know by chance he was the one who told me about Morris cheating, I'd think he was clueless. I smiled a bit. It's over, we broke up. Paul was taken aback for a second, then his dark eyes shone with a fleeting joy. Even though it was quick, I caught it. He said regretfully, he must have upset you. If you were my girlfriend, I'd be mad at myself if we fought, not sure what he was thinking. I imagined 3 imaginary lines of black on my forehead. Was this smooth-talking guy really the aloof Paul? Then he asked, So, what kind of guy do you like? I looked puzzled, meeting his gaze. His deep, dark eyes looked like black obsidian, shiny and captivating. Maybe my gaze was too intense. Paul cleared his throat and his tone was apologetic. Wasn't trying to pry into your privacy. Just have a friend who wants to know. With my dating history, I knew he just made that friend up. I didn't hesitate, cutting him off with good-looking ones. Paul was surprised. Just that one thing? 2 things. I didn't explain further, gave him a smile to figure it out himself. Wore my eye mask properly and ended the chat with some rest. I thought to myself, Paul showing up out of place in economy and sitting next to me was no coincidence. Now, was he interested in me or using me to get back at Morris? That remained to be seen. The plane was steady as it flew. Soon enough, I fell asleep. When I landed and got my luggage, I powered on my phone. Morris had sent me over 99 messages and 30 missed calls. He called again. As I pushed my luggage, I answered the call. Morris was excited and anxious. "Vivian, you finally picked up. Where are you? Let me come to you, so I can apologize in person." I replied calmly, "No need, it's over. I don't want to break up. I really love you. I promise Ella and I are over. Enough. We'll cross paths at the top if we're meant to, if not, then never again. Don't contact me again unless it's necessary. I don't usually block exes, don't push me to block you. Vivian, you can't be so heartless to me. I admit I'm known for my sweet talk and harsh heart. But Morris was the one who cheated first, and he's calling me heartless? Can't waste my energy arguing." I hung up in silence. Morris was persistent and called again. I shook my head. Blocked all his contacts. As I put my phone in my bag and was about to walk forward, I saw Paul standing nearby, looking at me without blinking. "Where are you headed next?" City. I plan to hang out for a few days, then go back home." Paul's eyes lit up, shining with a star-like brilliance. "Wow, what a coincidence, I'm heading there too. Let's go together." I smirked inside, feeling like he was trying to reel me in. Looking at Paul's striking face and that broad-shouldered physique, I started to get a little tempted. As long as he doesn't steal my kidney or cheat me out of money, it's all gain and no loss. Besides, he claimed to be Morris's best buddy. So, repaying a friend's debt seems just fine, right? Since we weren't close before and I just got out of a relationship. I didn't want to seem too bold, so I acted like a coy little flower. "Let's just go our separate ways, bye." I confidently pushed my suitcase forward. Paul took a step and easily blocked my path. "It's a bit late now, it's not safe for a girl like you out here. Especially since it's your birthday, and since we know each other, it's only right to look after you and celebrate," Paul said seriously. I stifled a laugh, remembering his relationship status. "I only date single hotties. Look after me? Wouldn't your girlfriend mind?" "I'm single." "Oh, then I'd appreciate it." When we got to the hotel, seeing Paul amazed at getting the room next to mine, saying how coincidental it was, I was more than happy to play along, smiling up at him. "It really is magical, huh? Yalong Bay has so many hotels with so many rooms, and yet you're staying right next to me." The college girl beside me, with her backpack on, looked back and forth between me and Paul. She eagerly asked, "Are you two a couple? If so, could you give me a room? I didn't book in advance, but I really want to stay here." Had she not asked the front desk to adjust a room for her before we came in, I'd have thought Paul hired her as a setup. Paul gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Of course, I was happy. It was like someone was handing me a pillow when I was sleepy. I reached up and wrapped my arm around Paul's neck, standing on my tiptoes to whisper in his ear, "It's tough for students to come here. Why don't we help her out? You can squeeze into one room with me, and I promise I won't bother you. I can crash on the floor." I tilted my head, staring intently at Paul. I saw my shy but pure reflection in his beautiful eyes. Paul's neck, which I touched, grew tense and hot. Even his ears turned a hint of pink. I was surprised how could he be so easily flustered and still dare to mess with me. Just as I was second-guessing Paul's thoughts, he lightly moved his Adam's apple and said okay. Then he told the front desk, "Cancel my girlfriend's room." The word girlfriend rolled off his tongue so naturally, as if he had practiced saying it 1,000 times. the front desk agreed. The college girl looked at us happily, trying to contain her excitement. Thank you, you too. I wish you a lifetime of happiness together. Paul seemed in a good mood, drastically different from his usual aloof self, and responded graciously with a thanks. Paul had booked an ocean view room. The orange glow of the sunset spread across the endless sea and poured into the spacious, tidy room through the large floor-to-ceiling window. It looked incredibly cozy. I couldn't wait to hit the beach. Paul suggested we grab dinner first, so he took me to a seafood restaurant. Clearly, he had planned ahead. Shortly after we sat down, the waiter brought out a Duffendagel birthday cake. I had once shared about it on Twitter, complaining it was too far to get. I looked at Paul, genuinely surprised, and said straightforwardly, "You actually remembered I like this. It's the first time I've received such a thoughtful gift. You're the first to treat me this well. You're amazing." The last 3 sentences were just to tease him. But Paul wasn't buying it. In the dazzling light, his fair face looked strikingly handsome, tinted with a soft blush. "As long as you like it. This isn't really the gift, the real one is in your room." I gave him another round of compliments. "Wow, I feel so lucky. I wish I had met you earlier." Paul's gaze carried a quiet tenderness, and he couldn't hide the smile tugging at his lips. After dinner, night fell. The beach lights illuminated the area. A light breeze kissed my face as I walked barefoot on the soft sand. I felt completely relaxed. There were still a lot of tourists at this hour. Passing by a beach bar, I joined the fun, leisurely sipping on a cool drink. At a table next to us, a handsome guy in just swim trunks, abs lined up neatly, caught my eye, and I kept looking on purpose. Paul, sitting next to me, scanned the guy up and down, then asked, "Do you know him?" "Nope," I replied. "Then why are you staring at him?" Blushing from the drink, though clearly tipsy, I leaned in close to Paul's ear and muttered, "Don't you think he's got a great body? His abs look like little loaves of bread, kinda tempting." Paul gave me a deep look, a flicker in his eye, then whispered back in my ear, not to badmouth him behind his back, "But he's got nothing on me. If you don't believe me, feel for yourself." Paul lifted his shirt hem, pulled my hand over, and pressed it against his abs, his movements clearly aimed to please and tease. Internally, I was cracking up, murmuring sleepily, "I can't tell. That guy still looks better." Paul bit his lip, seeming helpless as he gazed at my flushed face. "Vivian, you're really drunk." Since he said so himself, when he carried me back to the hotel room, I traced my fingernail over his Adam's apple a couple of times. "What's this? It wiggles around all cute. Let me give it a kiss." When Morris called, Paul had already fallen onto the soft bed under my deliberate charms. Thinking I was too drunk to notice, Paul trusted me, and picked up the call. Morris had an urgent tone. "Paul, can you use your ties to help figure out where Vivian went? She's missing, and her information seems wiped clean. I can't track her at all." The bedroom was quiet. Lying against Paul's chest, I heard the call clearly. Paul glanced at me, his gaze complex. Just as he was going to reply, I cupped his face and pressed my lips to his. Paul made a brief sound of surprise. Morris grew frantic. "Paul, did you hear me? Is your mouth busy or something?" At that moment, I wanted to push Morris over the edge. I leaned over to the phone and softly said 2 words, "Tongue." Morris fell silent on the other end. It took a while before his shaky voice asked incredulously, "Vivian? Is that you, Vivian?" Paul turned over, pinning me beneath him, a big hand clamping over my mouth. Adjusting his breath, he told Morris, "She's not Vivian. But the voice sounds just like hers." "Then come see for yourself." Paul's voice was low, almost emotionless, but carried a commanding power. Probably not wanting to offend Paul, plus having a hard time believing I'd be with him, Morris shifted to a lighter tone with a hint of teasing. "I wouldn't want to spoil your good time. I'm curious though, who's the woman badass enough to snag you? Bring her around one day so we can meet. What about looking for Vivian? Why bother with a girl who didn't appreciate you?" "No worries, I'll hang up. Don't want to interrupt. Paul ended the call. I couldn't help but recall how he worked tirelessly to break up me and Morris. I thought I should ask him for compensation. I reached for his belt. Paul grabbed my mischievous hand and held my chin to make me look at him. Vivian, take a good look. I'm Paul, not Morris. I stared at him without blinking, looking all kinds of pitiful. I know you're Paul, the one who got me a birthday gift. Can I please just open my present? I nuzzled into Paul's neck, gently biting his collarbone. Paul pushed me away again. The moonlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating his handsome face. A bead of sweat appeared on his forehead, showing his extreme self-control. He looked deep into my eyes, his voice incredibly hoarse. I'm just afraid you'll regret it. I looked at him, all pout. Why? Regret what? Are you not up for it? If not, I'll find someone else. I tried to get up, but Paul, propped above me, turned me back and kissed me. Turns out, it's never too much. For the first time, I watched the moon setting from the sky and the sun rising from the sea through the window. Eventually, I passed out like a dog. Slept till 4 p.m. Woke up with a sore throat, desperately needing water. Paul beat me to it, poured me a glass, and sat on the bed watching me drink. He was wearing just a towel around his waist. Seeing the marks on him, I looked down awkwardly, too shy to meet his gaze. Paul asked with concern, yesterday was a bit long. Are you uncomfortable anywhere? Not really, I mean, I had too much to drink last night. Got carried away. Hope you don't mind. Paul's face changed, looking at me, bewildered. What are you saying? You want to pretend nothing happened? Is that okay? No, what do you take me for? So, what do you want? Paul got a little annoyed. I thought sleeping together meant we were a couple. I like you, I want to be with you. Didn't you notice? Honestly, no. Plus, dating means being tied down and only loving one person. I held my water glass, troubled. It's true what they say, used to fear men wouldn't be responsible, now afraid they want you to commit. I looked up at him. Do you really like me? Yes, and do you not like me at all? Paul's eyes showed anxiety, such a contrast to his usual confident, commanding self. I thought about it. Paul is pretty great all around. There's nothing to lose dating him. So, I decided to bring out my little dating tactic. I had to retreat to make him chase harder. I looked innocently at Paul, eyes glistening. I admit you're my type. But I feel you're not serious enough about me. Don't get mad. I've been hurt before. I can't just start something lightly. I think we should just be friends, that way, we'll never break up. Paul's dark eyes had a sharp look of panic and hurt. He took the glass from my hand, set it on the nightstand, then held my hands, saying sincerely, I'm serious about you. I liked you even before you knew me. Even while you were with Morris, my feelings for you never changed. Trust me, I won't let you get hurt. If you're scared of breaking up, just say the word, and I'll marry you today, make you mine forever. Every word of Paul's was heartfelt, his eyes full of love and determination. I felt his love right then. But if we get together, what about Morris? Don't worry about him, I'll handle it. And just like that, I agreed to Paul's pursuit. I didn't expect him to be so public about it. After 10 days, he took me back to City A and introduced me openly to his friends. Including Morris. Morris arrived late. When I saw him, I was washing my hands in the bathroom. I looked up in the bright mirror under the light and saw Morris standing behind me. In just 10 days, he looked drastically different. His cheeks were gaunt, eyes shadowed with dark circles, red with veins, clearly worn out and troubled. I tried to leave. Morris didn't care, it was a public space. He came up and hugged me tightly. His voice was ragged, like after crying. Vivian, where did you go? Do you have any idea how crazy I've been searching for you? I was suffocating in his grip. Please let go, you're choking me. Morris loosened his hold a little, eyes filled with sadness. I've broken up with Ella. I promise I won't mess around again. Just give me another chance, don't leave me, please. I was seriously annoyed by his pestering, shoved him away, making my stance clear. Since the moment you betrayed me, you've been out of chances. Morris looked utterly regretful. I didn't do it on purpose, it was a department party. I got drunk and woke up to find her in my bed. I looked at him coldly. I only care about the result. All my relationships are accomplishments, only with you, it's a record. Knowing you cheated makes me feel disgusted beyond measure. Morris looked completely lost, fell to his knees in front of me. I am so foolish, naive. I thought you wouldn't find out. But when I got home, saw you erased all traces of us ever being together, fully erased yourself from my life. Only then did I realize how absurdly wrong I was. You must have known all along and kept enduring, giving me chances, but I didn't hold on tight. Now I know I was wrong. You can yell at me, hit me, just don't leave. I'll do whatever it takes to love you. I said simply, sorry, I don't take back old flames. Morris's eyes were dead. I turned to leave, and Morris clung to my leg. Down the corridor, Paul appeared, legs crossed, leaning against the wall watching us. Morris noticed Paul and pleaded with him. Paul, help me talk to Vivian. You know I really love her, I was going to propose and spend my life with her. Paul listened, striding over to me like he owned the place. He didn't care about Morris at my feet, just leaned down and planted one on my lips, clearly only thinking about himself. Vivian, where do I rank on your scoreboard? Morris looked at us like a deer in headlights. I didn't care. I kissed Paul back, quickly. First place. The others were just practice runs, you're the real deal. Whether that's true or not, who cares? When I date, my game is all about the sweet talk. And Paul was totally buying it. He let out a low chuckle, his eyes were full of gentle charm. Morris finally caught on. He was completely shattered. He stood up, eyes blazing. Fists swinging at Paul. Paul shielded me, skillfully dodging. Morris fumed, Paul, you're not my bro. I thought you were, but you took Vivian from me. Paul just smirked, speaking coolly. If it weren't for Vivian, why would I want to be brothers with you? Morris looked shocked. So was I. And by the way, Vivian's never been yours, she belongs to herself. I liked hearing that. Gave Paul a smile. Morris stared at me like his world crumbled. Vivian, don't let Paul deceive you. He's slimy, manipulative. If he hadn't hooked me up with Ella, I'd have ditched her ages ago. Paul looked at Morris with a kind of victorious smugness. You got with Ella on your own, I didn't make you. As for being slimy, manipulative, Paul's tone was playful, then he laughed, I plead guilty. That's how I got ahead of you. Morris was furious, shooting me an indignant look. Vivian, he admitted it. I said casually, so what? You can't keep your pants on and blame him for that? Let's call it quits. Don't bother me anymore. I grabbed Paul and started to leave. Morris desperately held on to me, his eyes pleading, his body trembling. Vivian, without you, I'd really die. I snapped, die? Really? Can you stop being so dramatic? Be a man, for a change. Must you cling to me like a leech? Joan showed up, having gotten the message, and pried Morris' hand off me, reprimanding me harshly. Vivian, who do you think you are? You got close to my son for his money, didn't you? Then she turned to Morris, shaking her head in frustration. Why is she worth your heartache? Her feelings for you were fake, bought for $5 million a year, for her to date you. Morris was stunned, as if struck by lightning. Then his eyes lit up, hopeful, as he looked at me. I'll give you all my money, let's stay together, okay? Paul was as cool as a cucumber, eyeing him. Do you really think with me around, Vivian would want your pocket change? Can't blame Paul for having that attitude. The Pauls are real high rollers, and guys like Morris, even with $1 million in the bank, seem ordinary in comparison. Paul gave me a tender look, rubbing the top of my head. You stuck it out with him for a measly $5 million. Had I known, I'd have snatched you up sooner. When we get home, I'll hand over a card. You can spend as you please, no limit. I looked Paul dead in the eye. It's not just about the money. Treat me poorly, and I'm out. The same applies, treat me well, and I'd stick by you, money or no money. I'd be a fool not to learn from this betrayal and not spoil you, right? I didn't expect Paul to throw shade at Morris. Maybe he did it to stand up for me. The light went out of Morris's eyes completely. Even though Joan exposed our relationship as a transaction. Whether or not I truly loved him, deep down he knows. He clenched his fists, heartbroken. Vivian, aren't all men the same? Paul will cheat on you too, and you'll get hurt. I cut him off sharply, so what? I'm not losing faith in love just because of you. As long as men act up, I'll just move on. Love's gonna be a constant in my life. Then I took Paul by the arm and walked away. Morris tried to follow, but Joan held him back. Morris was relentless. I had just rented a new place, looking for work, and he stuck to me like a shadow. He said I chased him first. Now it's his turn to pursue me. When Paul found out, he took me to his place and got me a job at his company. We commuted together every day. Morris could no longer bother me up close. One noon, outside the company, Paul and I heading out for lunch. Saw a young guy yanking on Ella's hair, getting into it with Morris. One bystander said the guy was Evan, Ella's husband. Evan paid her bride price, they had a wedding. But since Ella isn't old enough, they didn't get a marriage license. Ella ended up working at Morris's company and became his mistress, planning to leave Evan. Evan couldn't stomach it, came looking for Morris, treating him like the other man. Morris is a known rich kid in the area. It drew quite a crowd, some even live-streamed it. Morris got his face busted up but had the upper hand, eventually flooring Evan. Spitting mad, Evan got up, grabbed Ella, and started kicking her stomach, calling her names. Ella's pants showed a bloodstain, and she was crying loudly, "Stop kicking. The baby in my belly is yours." Evan froze for a moment and shouted, "Stop lying. I'm gonna beat you to death today for your shamelessness. Stop hitting me, the baby is really yours." I lied to Morris, saying the baby was his, just to deceive him. Evan stopped abruptly. Morris's face turned ghostly white. He never imagined he'd end up as the other guy and ruin his last chance with someone he cared about because of a kid that wasn't even his. With bloodshot eyes, he rushed to Ella, pulling her hair, demanding, "Why did you lie to me?" Ella begged him while sobbing, "The only lie was about the baby. Everything else is true. I love you, please save me." Morris slapped her across the face. "How dare you talk about love? You wrecked all my happiness." At some point, Evan picked up a pocket knife and stabbed towards Morris's neck. Many of us watching screamed in fear. Paul quickly reached out to cover my eyes. When I pulled his hand away, I saw Morris had grabbed the knife blade barehanded. Blood was dripping steadily from his palm. It was horrifying. Morris's secretary arrived with backup later, finally managing to rescue him. Through the crowd, Morris noticed me. His eyes were filled with shame and pain. To avoid getting pulled into this scandal, I took Paul's hand and quickly slipped away. This whole mess blew up online. Through the trending news, I learned that Ella was severely injured, not only losing the baby but also having her uterus removed. Morris was ridiculed by netizens and competitors exploited the situation, causing the company's stock to plummet dramatically, nearly destroying a generation's effort. A few days later, Morris was trending again. It was reported he was drinking heavily and refusing treatment, which caused a serious infection in his hand that eventually led to amputation. Looking at the photo of his empty right sleeve snapped by someone online, I couldn't help but zoom in for a closer look while munching on some fruit. Paul paused peeling the apple, glanced at my screen, and asked jealously, feeling sorry for him? Yes, I do feel sorry. Paul's face changed, and he said anxiously, why would you feel sorry for such a scumbag who deceived you? I pursed my lips, giving him an innocent look. I'm feeling sorry for myself. If only I had you by my side back then. Paul, with a mix of tenderness and pride, wrapped his arms around me and patted my arm softly. It's all in the past now. With me around, you're gonna be happy every single day. I looked up at him and said, you're so good to me. I don't even know what I'd do if you weren't here. Paul smiled gently, saying, we'll always be together. While smiling, I scrolled on my phone and opened up a chat thread with a mystery account. I gotta tell you something weird. This person kept sending me info about Morris's affairs. Looks like someone from your circle. Do you know who it is? Paul's smile froze for a second, and he rubbed his nose. Who cares who it is? They were helping you, not hurting you. Even Vivian, who adores you, has a time of the month. Let's not make ourselves suffer when we're in our prime. Looking at me, Paul bit his lip before finally confessing, it's me. I created that fake account just for you. My eyes opened wide in shock. Wow, I didn't expect you to care so much. But why didn't you just tell me? Paul replied with a bit of envy. At that time, you were really into Morris. I wasn't sure if you'd break up with him after finding out, or if you two would argue and make up, leaving me as the bad guy with you not wanting to hang out with me anymore. I thought for a moment, realizing there's truth in what he said about friends trying to help each other break up with toxic partners, only to end up looking like a fool. Did you like me back then? I asked. Paul gently tucked my hair behind my ear, and his gaze was deeply affectionate. I first liked you during my senior year school trip. I got separated from my friends, my phone died, and it started pouring rain. I slipped and fell in the mud, drenched and filthy. Lots of cars passed by, but only you stopped, letting me in without any judgment. After that, I wanted to pursue you. But then found out you were dating Morris from a neighboring school. So, I became friends with him, hoping to step in when he messed up. Luckily, I waited 3 years for that chance. I chuckled, what if he never messed up? Then I'd stay by your side, as a friend, protecting you from afar. His words made my heart warm. At that time, I liked you too. But everyone said you weren't interested in girls, so I didn't want to bother you. Paul looked surprised and happy. He leaned down, kissed my lips, and promised, I may not be interested in other girls, but I'm just interested in you.